Hey gang, welcome back. It is I, Dr. Boss Key, and today I wanted to share with you the fact that we got Evil Force into the game in a final form. So he's an enemy in the game, and I just finished wiring up a version of his explosion, his final art, and all that, so I thought I'd walk you through it. So let's get into it. First, you're probably asking yourself, what is an Evil Force? Well, this is Evil Force here, and let me just show you what we got going on here. So, here, they basically are these like flying flayed skull, like head disembodied heads. And interesting, the game sound is much lower than I expected it to be. Oh, it's because I turned it down on my headset. You guys are fine, sorry. And then so, as you see here, right, when you kill Evil Force, he does this like horribly, he continues to animate, fire is expelling, and then you have the explosions. So, yeah. Okay, so how do we do that? I'm quite happy with the results. Some of the things are a little bit more, we'll go through a second pass with audio design and a few things, but first and foremost, let's take a look. All right, so we've got our enemy type like normal here. In our particular case, we added 2 particle effects. So one is this fiery particle effect, so it kind of emits from the mouth a little bit and then out the back of the head. Doesn't have to make 100% sense. And then the other one we added is we have a kind of a flying blood globule effect, right? So just when they move around, gives you a little more sense of presence here. And let's see, so that was the eye candy. And then the other thing that we did is we hooked up, so we created, actually, maybe I should back up. All right, let me back this up. Okay, so first off, maybe second off, so we finished our art. Let me flip over to Photoshop. All right, so we finished the art for the guy. Here he is here, awesome. He's got his 4 frames. We drew the frames individually and then put them into a sprite sheet. And then taking that as a basis, this one here, we popped, because in our case, we wanted, because it has a frame animation, I wanted the animation to continue while he was getting exploded. So then in order to do that, we use a program called Juice Effects. And all I did here is, you can see here, this is it here. So we set the frame rate to 16 frames. We're simulating the render time to 1 here. I won't get too deep into Juice Effects. And then we brought in, you can't see it here, but we brought in the text, the sprite sheet that we had here. So we could apply these effects across the whole sprite sheet. So as you can see here, you have the kind of dissolving effect. It turns into like a pixelated square thing with a little bit of well, a heat and a flash in the middle of that, right? So I like that for the organics. This is kind of the way that we're stylizing a lot of our organic death effects. So so then from there, what we did is you go to you want to render out your project. So where was that? Oh, you click the render button. Bloop. And then here, we save the frames. So that was the important thing. So we save this out as frames. And then, you know, again, this isn't a Juice Effects tutorial, but I thought I'd show you the steps here. Because if I can do it, you can find the way to do it too. Happy to answer any questions as well. All right, and so what we did is we exported each of the frames. So we had them individually. And then you can see them here. So in Photoshop. Bloop. So for instance, you can see as it layers here. Is it this way? Ah, yeah, okay. So yeah. So there you can see how it's changing, right? You get how frame animation works. So in this case, I think it's 15 frames total, because we leave you could go 16 as well, but generally the 0 frame is one of the last pieces you see, and after this it's nothing in the frame. All right, so we took each of those images, and then we built this into essentially a sprite sheet. So I have a tutorial on that as well, but the short version is that in Scripts, there's a sprite sheet generator 0.60. You can totally just Google for this. If I remember, I'll put the link in the description. It's also one of our other videos here. So, and using this, we essentially loaded all of the images into the stack. Into Photoshop in this case, you gotta figure out how to do it in your own image editing software, but it's all the concepts are the same. So when we had those, then we basically constructed them into a sprite sheet. Now the sprite sheet was pretty huge. So this is a 2K by 2K sprite sheet for essentially what is 4 frames of animation. And well, technically it's 16 frames of animation, but there's the 4 animated frame animations here, so as it iterates through the sprite sheet. So, and this also gives us, in this case, I thought it was kind of a cool effect, kind of flipping back. You'll notice like when Evil Force is killed, he does this thing where he's like, right, like, and that's because those frames are juddering back and forth, which I kind of like because it's kind of him stabilizing, and then he explodes, right? So that was the main thing there. So then we save out the sprite sheet. I wound up optimizing this down to a 1K by 1K because he's already jerking around. You don't really see a lot of the extra pixels in that case. So I did try a 512 by 512, but then he was a little too pixelated in that. So you just kind of find the quality level that you're happy to have in your game. Okay, so let's see. So that was preparing that. Probably the last thing here is I basically just recorded. So I basically recorded me, and that's just me on the microphone going, no! Well, I thought it was a cool kind of placeholder, gives them a little bit more character. And then we have, essentially here, we also wound up having, there's two flavors of this. So I have a fire crackling effect. So that's the popping and crackling here. And then I have a little bit, this is more like a background fire kind of sound as well that starts at the beginning. And then here's the Evil Force death sound effect. In this case, I made it about 2 seconds because the whole thing is about 3 seconds total. And then I just basically added a fade, which you don't hear in here, but I added a fade for the final asset. All right, now in game, in engine, basically we did a couple things. So one is you go into, in this case, I went into the explosion editor. And go down to Evil Force Death, so you can see it there. Yeah. We basically added a particle element here, which you can rename these if you want. Didn't need to in my case. And then we added a sprite element. So the sprite element is the sprite sheet. We set the columns and rows to 8 by 8, so it knows how to iterate through that. And then in our case, we wanted to start it immediately, and we wanted it to last for about 3 seconds. And because we have so many frames, you have a little extra time, and because it's so jerky in our case, you can stretch out the time, and it's I can make it 10 seconds and it would still look fine. We adjusted a scale to about 6 in this case to get it to be about the same size as the enemy. So this is what plays when the enemy is killed, right, of course. And that was pretty much it. So, and then here at the end, we added a kind of just a big explosion, which is, these explosions are really fantastic. They come with Shmup Creator, so I thought that worked in our case. And we didn't want that to start at the very beginning, so we set the time before it starts to 1.5 seconds, so it starts right about the midpoint of the death animation, and then we want the duration to last for about 1.5 seconds. So like that, you can fudge a little bit. And then those were the main things. We added a little pitch variation, just so it would be a little different when it's destroyed. And then we added basically an explosion boom bass sound effect to that. So I think that was it for that. And then we come into here, and under gameplay, you hook up your death explosion. So that's the one you just created. So Evil Force in our case, we left everything else. So you could do multiples if you wanted to, but in our case, we don't want it to go everywhere. We want it to be pretty centered because it's the illusion for us is that when Evil Force is destroyed, he stays in his state and like winds up going through his death animation. So totally fine in our case. Okay, so I think, did I miss anything? So that was the effects. That was the animation. We set our animation speed to 1 in this case, and because it's the main sprite sheet it's only 2 by 2, as I showed you earlier. Did I miss anything? I think those are the main things. I'm pretty happy with the way the effect turned out for us. So again, kind of giving you a sense for this here. I think I need to adjust the collision a little bit, as I'm seeing here, which I'll do here in a sec after this.
Hold it.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing is that I noticed, and maybe I'll just show that again here. So in our game, one of the things that we do is we also spawn these these green glowing soul bits. It's a kind of a mouthful. Not his mouthful, but a mouthful. And it seems like it's a bit of a shame if you destroy this guy, you can't see his cool animations. So we added a more wider spawn effect. So here you can see, and this only works for us because the soul bits in our particular game, they fly into the ship, which are fun. It's always good to have these things flying into your ship. All the shmups kind of do it, especially the really big ones that are a lot of fun. But we give out so many. There's about 50 in this case, so we give out 50 of these. They also power your ship's super meter, and they all show up on top. So then you have all this cool animation, but you have all this cool particle effects on top. And so what we did is we wound up creating the spawn radius to be a little bit wider. So I think like you can see here, so like we set it to 80 in our case. So then the particles get dispersed, and you can still see what's happening with the death animations for the enemy. So something to keep in mind if you also do something where you spawn a big bundle. Here, I'll give you an example, right? So if I set this to 25, so there, it's like, oh, because they stall for a second, you can see what I wound up having to solve. So now it's just only for that first guy I changed it for. So these can't be tweaked on a per enemy basis. So understanding that being the case, we set our spawn radius to 80, which I have to take a note that because this is let's see here, set evil force soul bits spawn radius for all levels. All right, so for all the levels we have that guy, we have to go back and set that. Otherwise, what we achieved just now will not be set for all the other levels. Okay, so I think that's it. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put them down in the comments, or to hop over to the Shmup Creator Discord server, where a lot of us are jamming on our own projects and just sharing the work that we're going through, doing playtests and helping each other out. To everyone that's been following the channel, thank you for the subscribes, the likes, the playtesting, all the support. We're about a year into this project at this point, and the game would not be what it is now without the insights and time that people put into it, and it hasn't been lost on me. So thank you very much. To everyone else out there, we'll see you next time.